Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. What we're going to take a look at here today is essentially a top 10 gaming coins that I'd recommend for dollar cost averaging targets. In other words, these are basically just recommendations based on these being kind of the more common coins that I've covered, and obviously making sure you understand, if Bitcoin continues to sell off like it has been doing, where do you want to set your targets? Set some limit orders at specific price points. We get that candle wick down from Bitcoin here soon at 37.5, like some of us are expecting. We could very well see a lot of these altcoins take a dip. And if so, we want to be prepared for that, right? So that's the whole point of this, is to kind of help you, give you a little bit more preparation. My community members asked that I cover, something along these lines, and one of my admins essentially, he is phenomenal. Austin, if you already know who he is, of course, if you're part of the community, he's worked with me on this as well. So be sure to thank him for the idea. Very creative, very awesome. Greatly appreciate you, Austin. Thank you. So taking a look here, of course, at our first gaming coin. What we want to do is kind of just identify some targets here. Okay. Now, the first one, of course, is Axie Infinity. And what we're going to do is just kind of look at the last month worth of trading data. Okay. Normally, I'd draw out Fibonacci retracement levels for maybe a longer time frame to identify longer future reference points. But in this case right now, we're only going to really look at the last month's worth of trading data, for lack of better terms, or really close to that size of data, based on the simple fact that I want to probably try to do this monthly. Okay, so the whole goal of this is to continue to do this monthly, just like my top 5 list, and to make sure you identify, or you can understand more specifically, where we're at now, and we can reevaluate again in a month's time. Okay, so that's kind of the purpose there. So again, we're not going to look at the full 2 months worth of downtrend. We're basically just looking at for the most part, December and January. And in this case here, obviously the price point is right here, right around $72. And then the most next, relevant time frame, or sorry, the dollar cost essentially is $66. That's the price point that we were looking for. So, again, with the dollar cost average, first of all, just preface, I'm sorry, I skipped over this. You want to pick a price point that is just above a major Fibonacci retracement level. So the inverse applies here. Normally what we do is we take a price point just below a major Fibonacci retracement level for a profit target, okay? Because oftentimes the price rejects at that level. The inverse applies as well, where a price will reject and come back up and retract essentially once it hits that key level support. Now, in this case, the key level support is 65, but I'm going to say $66 is your target based on the fact that it may not candle wick that far down, right? Or if it does, you get filled and it comes right back up. So $66 is essentially the first price target for Axie. The secondary price target would be $53, and then the third tertiary target is roughly 46. So 46, 53, and $66 are the 3 targets I'd recommend for Axie. Moving on to Engine. With that same concept applied, what we're looking at here as well, and something just to quickly note, the 200-day SMA is working its way up, creating a support level. So bear in mind, we may not actually see the price come down much further for this one, but if it were to, obviously, again, we're anticipating Bitcoin digressing further, possibly testing somewhere in the range of sub 40,000. If that were to happen, we would see 209 as the first immediate dollar cost average target. Secondary target is 175, and the third target would be 157. Okay, so again, 209, 175, and 157 for Engine. All right, moving on to Gala. And this one rose up very fast, so I wouldn't be surprised if the price continues to digress lower. So just be prepared for the fact that this one will probably end up hitting some of those targets, just based on the sheer sentiment of it raising up so quick in such a short amount of time. This sell-off is very, very normal. Okay, and we don't even have a 200-day SMA to work with here. So all in all, at this point in time, the more relevant, you could say, targets would be, what it would be, 23 cents, 19 cents, and yes, believe it or not, right around 14 cents. Okay, so again, 23, 19, and 14 cents would be the dollar cost average targets. And once again, for that, just so you know, you're basically just setting limit orders, see if you get filled at that price point. If so, you just average your price down, and it essentially gives you more value, more bang for your buck, so to speak, and creates a much better return on investment long term. All right, so that's, again, those are the targets for Gala. Now take a look here at God's Unchained. Again, we're looking at more recent data. This is honestly only worth 1 week's worth of data, but if we were to go all the way back to December 17th, that'd kind of give us a lot more. We could do that, but again, if you pick a shorter time frame, you're going to get more accurate dollar cost average targets. because it's based on recent data. And again, we're trying to keep this in within the last month or less. Okay, so that's the whole purpose of this. That's why this is only about 9 days worth of trading data, but that's perfectly fine. It'll still give us what we're looking for. And what that basically just means here is that we got what, $2.60 as a good number here to shoot for. So 260 would be one of the primary dollar cost average targets. I did skip over this, but right around $2.90 would also be a target, but I wouldn't recommend setting a large amount there just based on the fact that the price is retracing down. The likelihood of it coming back past that is fairly high. And I do think $2.60 would be likely if Bitcoin were to drop its bottom. Okay, because again, when Bitcoin is dropping, we could see essentially right here around January 10th that 260 was hit, 259 effectively, right? So I would say 260 is a good round number to shoot for, and then a 217 below that, and $1.94. Okay. So once again, just to recap, $2.60, 217, and 194 for God's Unchained. All right, next up is Hero. We're going to go ahead and take a look here at Hero and kind of just identify quickly what that would look like as well. Keep in mind, most of these coins are below the 50-day SMA, because oftentimes you see the price jump straight up and come straight back down. Simply put, they all did very well in November and have retraced ever since. And that being said, how much lower will this go? Well, we got to understand that the ICO, or at least for KuCoin, what we're looking at is roughly somewhere in the range of about 8.4 cents. So 8.4 cents would effectively be the open. So we shouldn't expect it to come much lower than that. So I'd say 8.4 would be a good target to shoot for. Obviously, it'd be nice to get filled at that point, but you could even say also 9.2 would also be another. So 9.2, 8.4, and then 7.3. Okay, so those would be the 3 price targets I'd recommend for dollar cost average anticipation for Hero. Again, most of these coins, the likelihood of getting filled all the way down to the 3rd potential target is fairly low. We got to be realistic with that. Because again, if Bitcoin does drop, then obviously we might see that likelihood. If Bitcoin just goes down to 40,500 bounces and that's the lowest point in which we see, then those things may not get filled. You probably get filled on 1 or 2, but all 3 would be probably unlikely. So just kind of keep that in mind. As soon as you get filled with 1, consider adding the 2nd target, or if you have just say a trading bot, for example, then you'd have multiple profit or multiple targets for DCA, right? As you would as a profit target essentially. Okay. So again, just kind of some friendly advice there. Moving on to Mana, this is another one, of course, one of my more popular coins, and this one had a quick rise to fame, consolidation, another rise to fame, and ever since, what do you know? Late November, it's been selling off. Okay, so December was a terrible month for Mana, and even January as well, because we just got this consistent retracement. That being said, we're not here to evaluate the coin, because I do cover that fairly regularly. What we're looking at is just dollar cost average targets. And if we could see here, the first initial target would be $2.64. Again, I'm just adding a little bit more than the actual number. So 264 would be a good target. 228 would be the secondary target. And 210 would be the tertiary target. So once again, let's go and repeat that. 264, $2.28, and $2.10. Those are the 3 profit targets. And I'm sorry, I keep saying profit targets because I'm very used to doing that. These are the dollar cost average targets, so DCA targets for Mana Decentraland. Okay, if the price were to continue to retrace, you'd want to set your targets for those price levels. Okay. Now moving on to Vulcan Forged, PYR. This is another fan favorite here, and I can see why, of course. I've covered this a few times, of course, in the past, but yeah, it really took off late November and has been retracing hard ever since. So just again, keep in mind, most of these gaming coins are going to have a similar type of behavior. They rose up really quick, and you can expect them to sell off even more continuously throughout the rest of this month. Okay, big picture, I do still think gaming will have a second increase and a second surge. Okay, so I'm not too concerned with it. It'd be awesome to be able to lower our overall average, right? And that's the whole point of this again. So just to clarify, we're looking at the price actions right around 1145. If we're to get a retracement further from Bitcoin and everything were to continue to digress lower, we could see somewhere in the range of, I would say $10.20 would be an initial target for your DCA for PYR. Secondary target would be $6.56. And your third would be $4.67. One last thing I just want to check here really quick. Yeah, we can see that line's pretty synonymous as well. So yeah, there's no other major support levels that we have outside of these three that I just identified. So once again, $10.20, we were to just give you a nice round number, 10.20, 656, and 467. And that's for PYR Vulcan Forged. All right, moving on to Sandbox. This is also another fan favorite, you could say. And at this point, it is pretty much testing its major support level right now, because you can see $4.10 was previously the lowest wick down, and of course, the most recent wick. We could very well lose that. The more often you test a support, the more likely it is to break. So just be prepared for the fact that Sandbox could lose its bottom. If it were to, it'd be perfectly fine. We just DCA our way down. And what that is, we're looking at, again, the first initial target, I guess you could say, because the price is pretty much right there, would be $4.12. I would rather recommend you shoot for maybe the secondary target here. Obviously, dollar cost average a little bit now. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to have like a larger investment, so to speak, you want to put that further away, if that makes any sense. In other words, $3.33 or round up $3.34 would be an ideal target to have for Sandbox as the next DCA. Also, $2.93 would be another. Now, I want to try to just double check here and see, yeah, see the previous resistance level is right around 323, so that kind of falls right in between. So 323, 334, both of those targets are very realistic, considering there's not a lot of volume between the current price action and $3.34. Okay, so I think we'll see a candle wick down to 334, even just say as low as $3 as a realistic probability. So a round number for you to remember, just one number for Sandbox would be $3 even, but I do think 334 and 293 would be realistic as well. All right, moving on to S Fund. All right, now this is another one I've gotten a lot of requests for in the past, and I can see why, of course, as well, because it definitely ramped up, consolidated increase, and a sharp increase in late November. Yeah, gaming was just taking off hard in late November, and obviously retracing ever since. But if we look here right now where the price action's at, we can see a nice strong support at about $7.36. That's previously where the price would not go any lower. So why don't we just see round number 740? So 740 would be a dollar cost average initial target. Secondary target would be $6.93. And then the tertiary target is $5.96. Let's say round number $6 even, because the 200-day SMA is working its way up, and that should essentially hold as a support. Okay, so that's kind of the targets there for S Fund. Once again, 740, 693, 597, or just say round number $6. Okay, and that is S Fund. Moving on to I believe the last one here. Actually, I might have a bonus coin here as well, but this should be number 10. We're looking at UFO, and this one's taken some pretty hard hits. Obviously, its ICO, or essentially ICO on KuCoin, is right around, what is it, 1900 even. That's kind of the opening. Now it's obviously way down below that. It's almost half that, right at about 1092. So ultimately, we could see it come down even further. And if it were to, here are the price points for that. We're looking at 892. So why don't we just say round number 900 would be a realistic estimate there. And keep in mind, these are all decimal points. So I'm just saying the very last 3 to 4 numbers. So I hope you understand that 900, it's not well above the price action. It's actually 0.00009. But that being said, we're looking at 900 as the next DCA target for UFO. Secondary to that would be 630, and the tertiary would be 490. Okay, so again, 900, 630, 490. And the very last one here, we'll just go ahead and cover UOS, which is Ultra. And this one also had a quick rise to fame in late November. Big surprise, strong sell-off in December. And we are testing currently, at least we recently tested an all-time high. In other words, the previous resistance became a support, and right around 106 is a very effective support level. So I would speculate your very first your very first DCA target would be $1.06, or just say 107 to be safe, because you always want to round up a little bit, right? So 107 would be the initial. Secondary to that would be 84. That is, once again, 84 cents. And then, of course, the very last one would be 72 cents. Okay, so 107, 84, and 72 cents for Ultra. Keep in mind the 200-day SMA is working its way up. Of course, you could factor that in, but by the time we get there, we don't truly know where it's going to be exactly. So that's why 107 is a pretty realistic initial target. And if we were to lose that, yes, we could get a candle wick down lower than the 200, but that should likely close in the 1 day higher. So I do think that 84 cents would be a likelihood if we were to lose the bottom for Bitcoin here soon. Okay. So all in all, those are the coins that I wanted to cover here for you. If you find benefit from this, please let me know, of course. Once again, the purpose here is to help you understand and identify the ultimate target to be able to overall lower your average price action or price point, of course, with these coins to ensure that you have a better overall average. Now, there's no guarantees that the price will hit these points, right? But the key here is that you want to set these limit orders to ensure that if you were to get filled, and you're sleeping, for example, or the price were to drop overnight, you can wake up feeling good knowing that you got filled on some positions that you would have never done before. So again, these are DCA targets, dollar cost average targets. And the general recommendation for dollar cost average is to average somewhere in the range of 5 to 10% of your overall available portfolio into the coins that you're planning to invest in, right? You don't have to take all coins that we covered here today and add that to your portfolio because I'm covering them. You obviously pick the ones that you like and the ones that you feel are going to work the best. You probably already invested in a handful of these, right? But if you were to, these are the targets we're shooting for on our way down because we feel as a community that it's not, we don't cover stuff like this very often. We always try to look at what's going to the upside, right? You're going to have tons of other YouTubers that are going to cover those moonshots with you, right? But when it's not all sun and rainbows per se, they're nowhere to be found. And the goal of this is to ensure that you have a place and an understanding of what's going on in that interim, right? While we're waiting for Bitcoin to pull its head successfully from its ass, we know what we can do with these other coins and help average ourselves up, so to speak, instead of down by buying the top. We're going to try to buy the bottom, and don't misinterpret that. You can never find the bottom truly. That's why we have multiple targets in place to ensure that you can just try to find somewhere close to that. But I'd much rather try to add to our overall investment at a lower price point than try to anticipate something is going to that may not happen, right? This will happen if Bitcoin continues to digress. We've seen that already so far, and there's no other way around it. So we may as well get prepared. And if you find benefit, of course, comment below. Let me know if this is something you'd like to see as a continuous thing, because the goal here is, of course, to help us in a bear market, because bear markets are very lucrative if you know where to look. And I think that we can definitely find that. So hopefully you found benefit. Once again, let me know if you did. Feel free to reach out to me through social media or just comment below, of course. It's greatly appreciated. I love to hear your feedback. And if you're not currently a community member, consider becoming one, because I do this type of stuff all the time for my members, and I can assure you that we're all learning and growing together. It's an amazing experience. So check that out. Link in the description below. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon.